Hello and welcome to another episode of World of Africa on WION World is One. I'm Alyson Lagrange. On the show this week, we focus on the global menace of illicit drug consumption and smuggling that is sweeping Africa and hitting some of its regions like Lagos, Nigeria, especially hard. Plus, there is an ecological disaster that is threatening the health of a once thriving marine life in the waters of Umhlanga Rocks, South Africa. We have all of this and more. Thanks for joining us on the show. First up, the top developments from the continent. T.P. Joshua, the late Nigerian televangelist, pastor, and founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, allegedly raped and tortured numerous worshippers. This, according to a BBC report. At least 25 former followers, including 5 from the United Kingdom, have alleged atrocities that includes rape and forced abortions by Joshua for over 20 years.
Because you can't just bring in members, aggrieved former members to interview them. And we know one thing with people is that once you're in good terms with a person, you tend to praise the person. But once you have issues with the person, you go behind and say all sorts of things just to bring the person down and exact your revenge.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's election regulator has annulled recent election results for 3 ministers and 4 provincial governors, citing fraud and voter intimidation. The Electoral Commission, CENI, stated that it had cancelled all ballots cast for 82 election candidates in the Central African nation. Somalia has signed a law nullifying an agreement between Ethiopia and Somaliland in a largely symbolic gesture of its displeasure over the deal to grant port access. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed said the law voided the illegal pact giving landlocked Ethiopia long-sought access to the Red Sea through Somaliland, a separatist northwestern region over which Somalia exercises little real authority. Nigeria's military regime says that civilian victims have been discovered after airstrikes by army against terrorists near the border with Burkina Faso. The National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland says that the army had initially repelled a terrorist attack by a group who arrived on around 20 motorbikes. The attack targeted a military post in Tayawa, in the western Tillaberi region near Burkina Faso. A drug epidemic is sweeping Africa. Illicit drug consumption and smuggling is a global menace, but it is affecting some regions more than others. This menace is spreading faster with the advent of social media. WION correspondent Olaniyi has this report.
Drug menace is rampant across the globe, and Africa is not left out. There are reports of regular raids and arrests of people dealing in it. Experts say unconventional drug use and addiction are not new phenomena, but it has only been made more popular through the advent of social media. The economic downturn witnessed across the continent has further pushed young people into drugs.
As the economic situation worsen, you find that people naturally seek for a means of escape. It's a normal phenomenon. It happened in the 60s, in the 70s, and even in this decade. Once globally there's an economic downturn or high rate of unemployment, or generally social issues that leave people in a state of uncertainty, or in a state of apprehension, or in a state of hopelessness, you find that people naturally seek for a means of escape as a way to cope with their predicaments.
The reported use of human bones as a part of hallucinogens is leading to people raiding graveyards in Sierra Leone. Here, the human bones are grounded for their high density of sulfur and mixed with fentanyl, tramadol, and formalin. It imitates the effect of xylazine, which is called a zombie drug. It is described as the worst epidemic in Africa as it has spread to Liberia and Guinea. Also in Borno State, Nigeria, youths that can't afford hard drugs now store urine for days to ferment and drink it. Experts have highlighted preventive measures and alternate coping skills for young people while tasking the government with more funding for research, training, and support for institutions that cater to addressing the menace of drug use.
So as a country, we need to prioritize the sector. We need to give funding for research, training, empowering individuals in the sector so that they don't leave the country and go to other countries. And then we need to put in policies. When we draft in policies, such as we have the Mental Health Act and so many other policies or guidelines recommended by the WHO, we need them to be enforced.
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Household Survey, conducted in 2018 but reviewed in 2021 and 2022, placed the level of substance abuse in Nigeria at 14.3%, which was 3 times higher than the 5.6% global average. Now, the report says Africa remains a key transit region for cocaine in the west, heroin in the east, and cannabis resin in the north. Various media reports say the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency seized over 6,000 tons of illicit drugs from January 2021 to September 2023. The Drug Enforcement Agency also arrested over 36,000 drug traffickers during the same period.
The search for alternative means by young persons in Nigeria and other parts of Africa to alter their state of consciousness has led many to exploring a range of illicit substances, activities, and practices that are detrimental to health. Psychologists believe these behaviors are often rooted in complex socioeconomic factors, mental health issues, and a desire for escape. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa, Olaniyi, WION, World is One.
3 years ago, a set of devastating events unfolded in Umhlanga Rocks, South Africa. Their effects are being felt today at the popular destination known for its picturesque coastline and thriving marine life. Local residents and conservationists report unusual incidents along the coast, indicating a persistent contamination in the waters that could damage both the ocean's ecosystem and public health.
The coastline of the picturesque Umhlanga Rocks is harboring an unseen enemy, chemical pollution. It goes back to July 2021, when riots gripped parts of KwaZulu-Natal. In the mayhem that followed, the UPL Limited factory, a symbol of industrial activity, was burned down. It released a deadly cocktail of hazardous chemicals in the air, soil, and the waters. The once crystal clear waters are now a subject of concern. They now show an increase in chemical levels, the likely fallout of the warehouse blaze. In the absence of information, residents are unclear about the dangers lurking in the water, where they swim, fish, and play. Once bustling with activity, the beaches are now often empty. The warning signs that discourage swimming are a stark reminder of the unseen threats in the water. The community's growing insistence on transparency raises critical questions about industrial safety, environmental stewardship, and the rights of citizens to information that is crucial for their health and well-being. The sands of the Umhlanga Rocks remain tainted by an insidious pollutant, as the global attention remains fixed on how the situation unfolds. The call for action echoes loud along the shorelines. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
In Kenya, malaria claims an estimated 10,700 lives every year, according to the US-based Center for Disease Control. And climate change is only aggravating the situation. According to the World Health Organization, extreme weather events like heat waves and flooding are influencing the survival of the malaria-carrying Anopheles mosquito. But now hope is at hand in the form of a rollout of 2 new vaccines in Africa in 2024 that could curb the transmission.
Recently, Wilson Mutai was diagnosed with the disease at a hospital in Isiolo.
I was taken to hospital, and when I got there, a blood test was done and I was found to have malaria. But the hospital did not have any medication. I had to look for a doctor who could treat me at home.
Mutai's friend, who was also suffering from malaria, was not so lucky. He passed away as he could not afford a private doctor. Like Mutai, Kelvin Onkoba, a 25-year-old nursing intern, also had to pay his malaria treatment.
Malaria impacted me in terms of it made me miss work for 4 days, which was a big blow for my team and the people from the community because of my skilled work that I usually provide to them. And in terms of my health, malaria affected much my immunity, so I had to readjust my diet by digging deep down my pockets in terms of boosting my immunity. And in terms of the medication weren't available at the facility, so I had to even dig more deeper in the pocket.
Now, the International Livestock and Research Institute and Kenya Medical Research Institute have partnered with Zoonotic Disease Unit to study how climate change affects mosquitoes and disease transmission pattern. ILRI set up weather stations in different locations to monitor weather patterns. Using disease control light traps, the centers capture mosquitoes using carbon dioxide that attracts mosquitoes to the trap. The mosquitoes are transported to the Kemri lab for species identification. At ILRI, the mosquitoes are analyzed to identify the virus and pathogens they carry. The Horn of Africa has recently experienced destructive floods that have caused massive suffering to people. The recent heavy rainfall attributed to the climatic phenomenon El Nino creates stagnant waters that become breeding grounds for mosquitoes, and that could lead to an increase of vector-borne diseases, including malaria. The World Health Organization's 2023 malaria report says in 2022 there were estimated 249 million malaria cases worldwide, 16 million more cases than the pre-pandemic level in 2019. In 2021, WHO endorsed the first malaria vaccine in what it described as a historic effort to end the devastating toll the mosquito-transmitted disease has on Africa. That vaccine, called RTS-S, is considered to be about 30% effective. This year, the World Health Organization also endorsed a second malaria vaccine called R21 Matrix M. Research suggests the 3-dose vaccine is over 75% effective and that protection from malaria is maintained for at least another year with a booster. Both vaccines are expected to be rolled out in several African countries in 2024. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Human activity and climate change have heavily deforested the land surrounding the Naki Vale of one of the oldest refugee settlements in Africa. But a group of refugees is taking environmental matters into its own hands. Thanks to their initiative, the once bare land and hillsides are again turning green.
On a rocky part of a hill at the Naki Vale refugee settlement, a group of workers is using handheld tools. The group, that includes refugee men and women, digs holes and lowers pine tree seedlings in them and covers them up. The group has been planting trees in this way in Naki Vale for over 6 years.
The reason why we started planting trees was because when we came here, the entire area of Naki Vale was a forest. After spending 7 years here, the entire forest disappeared. The trees that we used to cut for cooking got depleted, and women had resorted to removing tree roots for cooking.
The project is the brainchild of Burundian refugee Enoch Thwagi Ra Yesu, who escaped the conflict there in 2003 and settled in Naki Vale. He fondly recalls his first time at the settlement and says the area used to be covered with trees. Today, most of the land is bare due to the high demand for fuel, construction materials and land for cultivation. This prompted Twagira Yesu and his fellow refugees to act out of concern for a better environment. More than 180,000 refugees now live in the settlement, according to official figures from October 2023. A local NGO says the influx of refugees from neighboring countries continues to put pressure on the worn-out settlement.
To a large extent, refugees have contributed to the degradation of environment in Achi Valley. Why? One, we have increased influx of refugees from DRC. Majority of the refugees are from DRC. And each day and night we receive new arrivals. So when they come, there's a need for construction. And construction, it requires building materials. So even the few trees available, they are cut down to construct trees.
In the past, Naki Valley has also experienced episodes of environmental disasters like drought. Several years ago, Lake Naki Valley, the main water source for the entire area, saw its water levels recede.
Due to human activities, we experienced a heavy drought that took us for 4 months, close at 5 months, which reduced the levels of the waters in the lake, which was a very big challenge here. Even the pumps that were extracting waters were first challenges because water is extending to deeper ends.
Tumushabi says efforts by actors like Twagira Yesu have pushed development agencies to act on environmental concerns at the settlement. A plant nursery was set up to support the efforts of the refugees to replant the forest.
So we have refugees that we bring and train on how to grow seeds, to germinate seeds from mother bed to their beds up to the main gardens. So it acts as the knowledge transfer center in terms of environment.
And the efforts are already paying off. Many once bare areas are now teeming with trees, according to locals. The rains have also increased in the past few years, they say. Twagira Yesu, however, says to meet their dream, there's a lot of work still to be done. He says they have so far planted over 460,000 trees around Naki Valley.
In 5 years, we hope to hit the halfway target of our program. The lake is there, but we hope to plant trees in the entire Nema belt within Naki Vale. But of course, we also have challenges and we have a long way to go.
A talented musical sibling trio from Johannesburg is grabbing global attention with a number of viral videos across their social media pages. They hope 2024 will be the best year yet for them as they hope to audition for America's Got Talent. Our correspondent Kalden has filed this report.
In South Africa, when you think of a talented musical family, it has to be them. Dr. Tunokwe and her equally talented 3 cubs, Bikos Mana and Mufundo.
Bikos Mana and Fundo. Wow, they have done it. They have actually lifted our bloodline. They are the 6th generation. From what we remember from the stories that our parents told us about their parents and the parents of their parents, there was music. It runs in the blood.
These 3 siblings, aged 16, 14, and 9, collectively have a following of over 4 million on social media, and they are a force to reckon with.
So we come from a legacy of creatives But when we started really playing music was when we met our music teacher, Mkhulu Begi Khoza, and he started teaching us music. He started teaching us to play the guitar, and as the years went by, that's when we decided to use our talent and actually go out there and show people what we can do. So we started busking at the streets of Maboneng, where a lot of tourists used to come there. So a lot of opportunities also came.
These young talents are not just famous at home, but they have been on global stages too. Last year, they were invited for a sit-down interview with American Grammy and Emmy Award winner Jennifer Hudson.
Thank y'all for coming out.
They even performed at the Festival of Nations in St. Louis, Missouri, with over 100,000 in attendance. Not only this, they have even been invited to audition for America's Got Talent.
We were invited in AGT, America's Got Talent. It was around 2022 because that was the year where a lot of things opened up because we went viral. And started getting meetings here and there with them. So we actually submitted our first video recently, so we're just hoping for the best. And we can't wait for this year 2024 because this is the year where we actually are going to be, it's one of the biggest stages in the world, so we're very excited about this year, honestly.
This talented family is looking to break all barriers, and the granny feels young kids like Bikus Mana will need more support and encouragement from government and people to nurture their talent.
A quote by Walt Disney reads, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." And Bikus Mana is doing just that. With the blessing of their elders mixed with talent and hard work, they are definitely going to achieve greater heights. So here's wishing them luck and huge success. This is Kalden from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of World of Africa. Get in touch with us on our social media platforms and share your feedback about the show there. My name is Alyson Lagrange. Keep watching WION World is One. Until next time, goodbye for now.